tried to convince each other to get tattoos, and I almost got Spider-Man's mask on my neck
Oh my
until I
goodness.
realized that's a stupid idea, and I would actually get in trouble for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How come you don't people don't do temporaries first? Let me try it out.
Commit, man. If you're gonna do it, commit.
Ben Stein has a tattoo.
I do not have a tattoo, I assure you.
You don't have a Richard Nixon tattoo somewhere?
I don't, and not anywhere.
Not like Roger Stone.
Needles up. I would.
Oh, because regarding tattoos, he may be entitled to compensation. I'm allowed to say that.
Maduro is very excited. By the way, Maduro, you could also, if you would be helpful just a bit.
Oh my God.
And I know I'm mispronouncing your name. Test out the YouTube for us and see, because some people say they have issues, and I'm always curious, if you don't mind, you or Rock Breath or whoever.
I'm going to the channel now.
Howdy, y'all, Star Talks. You're
Yo.
I see it.
Yo.
okay, so we're gonna start in 1 minute, guys.
Yo. 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 Yo.
Yo yo.
Yo.
Okay, Ben, people. Okay, you guys ready? 30
Yes.
seconds. 30 seconds. 30
Okay.
seconds.
Wait a second.
Oh boy.
Ben, if you could remember to turn off your phone.
I'm turning it off right now. Putting it over here on top of checks for bills that I can't afford. That's
Which
true.
reminds me to tell you, Ryan asked you to sign them later. And on that note, let's welcome back.
On that horrible note.
On that horrible note, welcome back.
On that horrible note. Yes.
Welcome back to the world according to Ben Stein. I'm your host, Judah Friedman. This is our third streaming episode, and we are thrilled to have you. Follow us on
gentlemen.
Follow us on Parler at Ben Stein, and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube at World According to Ben Stein. Please tell your friends, your family, your significant other or others, and please tell your acquaintances. And of course, please tell your enemies. Joining us as always is the other Ben Boychuk of American Greatness, the finest managing editor from Bangor to Big Bear. Hello, Ben.
Hey, it's good to be back.
That was a very uplifting hello. Thank you.
Good.
And of course, the incomparable, brilliant, shrewd Lewis Fine. Hello, Lewis.
Good to be here.
What up?
What up? Yeah. And we are also pleased to welcome back, of course, Remzo Martinez, Parler's Director of Outreach and Podcaster Extraordinaire. Hi, Remzo.
Judah, happy Thursday. Ben, happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday to you. And of course, we are also pleased to welcome, and finally, the man of the hour, writer, actor, economist, America's humble servant, Benjamin Jeremy Stein.
God bless you all. Thank you very much.
God bless you. And we
Third time is not the charm.
you know what, kinks and all, it always is the charm the third time. And what we were discussing, Ben had posted a few things today, but what's been hugely in the news right now is the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Facebook not, allowing posts on it, Twitter not allowing posts on it. And regardless of whether the story is true or not, it's an amazing media coup that is going on, Ben.
The whole world in America and much of the rest of the world is a media coup right now. Look, I go back a long way. A media coup was what got rid of Mr. Richard Nixon, the greatest peacemaker president we've ever had. And now we're having a media coup get rid of Donald Trump, who helped us get through the pandemic, who brought us out of the horrible dark shadows of the Obama presidency, where the president of the United States was traveling the world apologizing for the greatest nation in the world, in the history of the world. And he brought us into the bright sunlight of being proud of America and a prosperous, proud America. Then when the COVID hit, probably courtesy of the Chinese, but maybe not. He led us through that with extraordinary courage, and now it gets dumped on as if he had somehow created the virus down in his basement and shot it all through the world. And his behavior has been dignified and wonderful throughout.
You mean he didn't do that?
No, he didn't do that. But the way
But,
the media did it is always his fault.
Ben, the biggest thing I want to ask you, and I want to ask this to everybody on the panel right now, is so Lewis had actually sent me a piece saying that the story wasn't verified, and Twitter, that was their reasoning. I vaguely remember a special counsel that was started on unverified news. I vaguely remember the New York Times writing at least 40 stories from anonymous sources that have proven to be incorrect.
I don't doubt it at all. I mean, let me just say, I was brought up reading the New York Times, although I'm not from New York. I read it. I thought it was the last word in journalism. It turned out to be an embarrassment, a shanda for the Jews. And it's really a sad situation because we basically have no newspaper we can trust and count on in the news part of it anymore, except the Wall Street Journal. And it's a terribly sad situation. And on television, except for Fox and us guys, we don't have much in the way of truth going out over the air either.
And it's just frightening because if you go to Parler, if you look at conservative sites, and people at this point are just so up in arms, and they're like, what do we have to do for us to get a fair trial? And with that, I'll go to Ben Boychuk.
Well, I just wanted to mention a couple of things in case people don't actually know what we're talking about. We're talking about the New York Post's expose on Hunter Biden involving emails that were taken, that were recovered from a laptop that ended up in a computer repair shop in Delaware, which is, of course, Joe Biden's home state. As we're talking about this, there was another story today that seems to have been buried by the controversy about the first story, a follow-up story headlined "Emails Reveal How Hunter Biden Tried to Cash in Big on Behalf of a Family with a Chinese Firm." Nobody's talking about that. We're still talking about yesterday's story and the media reaction to it, which has been utterly scandalous.
The media cannot deal with the weight of the corruption of the Biden family. The media cannot cope with it, ignores it, and instead paints him with a very bright, shiny brush.
Well, it's interesting. So we're talking now about 2 hours earlier from when we're talking. ABC News had a televised town hall with Joe Biden. It was hosted by George Stephanopoulos.
Oh, wow.
Guess how many questions?
That's really funny. That's actually funny.
Guess how many questions he asked about the Ukraine story involving Hunter Biden? Just guess how many?
Zero.
Zero. Exactly zero. Exactly zero.
Right.
And so if you need any evidence at all, and there's plenty of it, but certainly that's the best evidence, most bright and shining nationally televised evidence that the so-called mainstream press is well in the tank.
There is no mainstream press anymore. The mainstream press is the left-wing, anti-Trump, anti-Republican, anti-conservative, anti-free speech, anti-gun, anti-life press. And it's a scary thing. It's a very, very scary, upsetting thing. And I would even say anti-God press.
I would agree with that, sure. Yeah.
But it was fine.
My Hebrew name is Hunter.
Your what? Your what?
My Hebrew name. When I was called to the Bema.
Yeah.
Which is from the Yiddish for bow.
Really?
Yes.
That's
I go by Lewis.
Joke.
I think you're joking.
So give the Biden campaign the presumption of doubt, of innocence, which they will not afford the Trump campaign, and assign the same to the media. My question is twofold.
Go ahead.
Is the laptop from either Hunter Biden or the nonprofit named in honor of Beau Biden? And if the emails have yet to be authenticated, is the video of Hunter Biden smoking crack
What?
Yes.
real or not?
I didn't even know about that. Now, why is it that I, a fairly careful follower of the news, didn't know a thing about that until you mentioned it, Louis?
Because had you not gone on, because Ben, most of unless you go to Fox News, most of the updates you get on your iPhone is Apple News, which is generated through different news sources, are not reporting these things. And the point Louis brings up now is authenticated. I love how this has to be authenticated. Everything Donald Trump has done has never had to be authenticated. We literally spent 2.5 years with a special counsel, and never once was anything authenticated. We knew this was a fake. We knew it. So this Joe Biden thing, whether the emails are authenticated, whether they're true or not, it doesn't matter, because on our side, they could say anything about us.
Well, best case scenario for the Biden campaign, best case scenario, the emails were fabricated, but the video of his son smoking rock cocaine, shirtless, with a gold rope chain around his neck.
Oh my God.
No, he's not kidding at all.
Oh my God.
Is real. So the best case scenario is my son has a drug problem, a serious drug problem. And this is why you don't have to manufacture or believe in conspiracies, because it takes one person or the ineptitude of one person for an entire MO to collapse. Someone brings in this broken laptop to be repaired. The bill isn't paid, purportedly. What is found, purportedly? Emails and this video of the former vice president's son, again, let me repeat, smoking rock cocaine. If that seems extraordinary, it's not. How did Son of Sam get caught? Parking tickets. He didn't pay his parking tickets. That's how they found the serial killer.
By the way, Louis, he's at best, he's Roger Clinton 2.0. And on that, I'll go to Remzo.
You know, I was a political consultant for a couple of years. Not a great one, so don't take my advice for worth anything. But if Biden really wanted to double down on this, he should just say, you know what? Beau's a victim, but we should just legalize crack at this point. Why not? They've got nothing else to save them. They'll just deny it.
Terrifying thought.
But it's outside of the realm of possibility.
Not outside at all. I would never have dreamed 30 years ago that marijuana would be legalized, a gateway drug if there ever was one, an absolutely for sure gateway drug, legalized. In California, people smoke it constantly. It's a terrifying situation. I mean, what's next? Legalizing crack and heroin. What's next? I mean, legalizing everything. It's the whole situation is terrifying. But I want to go back to what I think supposed to be the theme of our program tonight. Why is there no justice for Democrats? Why is it that Democrats can do anything, not be punished for it, not even be much in the news for it, and Republicans, if they get to use your phrase, a parking ticket, are crucified in the media? Why is that? Because the media is the extension of the personalities of the people who run the media, all anti-Trump, anti-Republican, and I would say anti-constitutional, and terrifyingly angry.
Ben, I think everybody could go to answer that question, and it's no offense to you, but the Republicans of the past generations tended and still don't to this day stand up for themselves.
Absolutely.
And stand up for their constituents.
Absolutely.
So where are the 53 senators right now livid, screaming on TV. Where are the 100 and, you know, late and 100 and almost 200 congressmen and congresswomen? Where are they not screaming? That's the problem. Is we only have one wall, and that his name is, or one bodyguard, and his name is Donald Trump. Yes, there are a few good guys and good gals in there, but for the most part, Republicans never defend themselves. They allow themselves to be spanked.
But why is that? I think is it because they're gentlemen? I don't know. I mean, maybe they are, but I think gentlemen, when slapped across the face, are supposed to challenge the person who slapped them to a duel, and they don't. They don't fight back. Look, I saw this. You guys are young kids. I saw this in the Nixon years when Nixon was being hammered with lie after lie after lie after lie in the media. Every kind of lie imaginable was hit him. From the days of Alger Hiss, from that long ago. And I know that Lewis knows the subject very, very well. And Republicans never stood up for him. You know, and even McCarthy, even the word McCarthy, even today, if you know anything about him, he's painted as a devil. But he was right. There were a lot of communists in the government. There were a lot of communists in the State Department. He wasn't wrong about that. And yet he is pictured as Satan. And you know what? Now nobody cares if they're communists in the government. No one cares if the universities are filled with communists who hate America. Look, as far as I'm concerned, they're welcome to be communists. God bless them, they can be communists. I don't want them teaching their students to hate America. America is the greatest thing that ever happened on this planet. I don't want the kids being taught to hate America.
So Ben just raised the question why it is. I had my answer. Lewis, we'll start with you. What's your answer?
Well, first, you have to be someone who is popular with the press. Why was John McCain able to not only survive politically after having been implicated as a member of the Keating Five in the SNL scandal of the 1980s with Charles Keating, but went on to run for the presidency in 2000 and then became the nominee for the Republican Party in 2008 when the other four members of the Senate of both parties, including his fellow senator from Arizona, Donald, I think it was it Regal? Ben, was it Boychuk? Was it Regal?
No. I don't
Jeff Flake?
No.
Flake.
There's a long way. But so on the one hand, if you're popular with media, you can get a pass. On the other hand, it can very well be arbitrary. Take, for instance, Ben's friend, Al Franken. Now, here was someone that is a liberal, is popular with media, and was vilified out of office, forced to resign, pressured to resign by Chuck Schumer. And then you have, for what was, in my opinion, nothing, but years prior to that, you had someone like Bob Packwood, who was forced to resign because of sexual harassment and untoward behavior toward female assistants and women in the Senate. So I can't tell you what the barometer is, except to say it does help. It does help to have friends in the media. It isn't a guarantee of anything, but with no friends in the media, you are assured prosecution, if not persecution.
That is absolutely true. Personality is everything. If I were running for president, the only book I would have by my nightstand, and by the way, I go back to you, Mr. Lewis Fine, who said that when Mr. Adlai Stevenson died, the only book they found on his nightstand was The Social Register, which I'm sure was a joke. But anyway, the only book in Warren Buffett's office, and I've been in that office many times, the only book there is How to Win Friends and Influence People, and some books of statistics. How to Win Friends and Influence People should be the main book for everyone running for office, but it won't work if you're a real conservative. If you're pro-life, if you really mean it, if you seriously mean it, there's no amount of being friendly to the press is going to make the press like you.
You're right on that angle. You're right to that effect. But I do believe Trump has set a path where Republicans like Jim Jordan and all of those other people have learned, and Matt Gaetz have learned how to fight back. And the other ones aren't doing it. But I want to hear Ben Boychuk's answer on this one.
Well, I was just sitting here thinking about what Lewis was saying a moment ago about popularity with the press. And if people didn't hear me in the crosstalk, and I'm sorry if I stepped on Ben's
My fault. I
response.
apologize. I'm very sorry.
But it was Dennis DeConcini was the other
Right.
Arizona senator. But I was thinking about, and this comes up a lot, being popular with the press. You know, one thing that people really have to remember, journalists are, and I'm speaking as somebody with 25 years in the business of journalism. Journalists are not very smart. They're not very well educated. They're not very well read. I didn't get a journalism degree. I got a political science degree, and I read good books. I read, Aristotle and Plato and Machiavelli and Aquinas and Locke and all the rest. But for the most part, in the press corps, people that I've worked with, very nice people, earnest people, they're just not very well read or very well educated. And so so it's easy. I think about a politician, and this is slightly off topic, but I'm going to mention it anyway. I think about a guy like Jerry Brown, former governor of California, very, very smart guy, smarter than 99% of the people who are covering him. And I didn't like him, but I liked talking to him because he was the kind of guy who would look you straight in the eye when he stuck the shiv in you. And
That's very funny. It's very funny.
I mean, yeah, and so
we see where Ben Boychuk's been hanging out, but go on.
Well, Brown was the kind of guy who often would do his own wet work. But I think for the most part, we are getting the sort of news coverage, and yeah, it's ideological and it's very left wing, and I agree with Ben 100% on that. But it's also coming from people who are not very smart, very easily manipulated. Ben Rhodes, who was Barack Obama's former sort of spokesman for the National Security Council, who famously spoke of, in a New York Times Magazine interview, spoke of the echo chamber that
The blob.
the Obama administration had developed over the Iran deal. Was on Twitter today talking about how, Republican liars and disinformation and things like that. And people were throwing back in his face the echo chamber comment, including me. And I just think that, the kind of media that we have in an ostensibly free, self-governing republic where we're supposed to understand what's going on in the world and in our communities and in our country, we're extremely ill-served by our journalists.
We're ill-served by ourselves. I mean, we don't educate ourselves. I mean, the level of ignorance just among the population in general is extremely disturbing, and the media can get away with it because they write these lies, and the people who read the paper, if there are any people left reading the newspapers, they don't know any better.
This reminds me, and I want to get Remzo's opinion on this because he's the young pistol of the group. But this reminds me, about a month ago, Ben calls me on the phone and he goes, "Did you see this story in the New York Times?" And I go, "I don't order the New York Times or read the New York Times or do anything." And he says, "They reported a story. It didn't even have a source." And
It didn't even have the story. It was a headline and no story.
And I remember, and that's where the New York Times is now. But I want to get Remzo's opinion because he's of a younger generation of conservatives, of Republicans. What's your view of why Republicans take it on the whatever you want to say?
It comes down to one thing, and I think this is the general premise you'll see throughout politics, wherever you look at throughout the world and throughout history: fear. One of the best pieces of advice I was given in 2018 when I was managing the Get Out the Vote effort for a local statewide race was from a consultant who had been in for at least 30 years. And he looked at me and he said, "What do you want to do after this?" And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "Well, if you can't cut it in politics, go into journalism. And if you can't make journalism work, organized crime will fit you fine." And I think I'm organized crime will fit you fine. And I think I've broken that iron triangle. But what you see far too often is a degree of activism within journalism that was certainly not what we expect it to be. One of my favorite journalists of all time is Charlie LaDuff. And And Charlie LaDuff, through his gonzo style of journalism, he traveled across America throughout 2016. He actually published a book called Shit Show: The Country is Burning, but the ratings are great. And he gave a very objective look at the country. And what he began to realize was, we're a big nation of many people. He wouldn't classify us as very conservative or very liberal. People are scared. People don't know what is true anymore. And what you have is a large, portion of the media pool these days, which is filled with over-credentialized young people who don't actually want to be good reporters. They all want to call themselves reporters, but really they're just overpaid bloggers and columnists just spouting out their opinion as if it's fact. They spend more time Googling what other people are tweeting than actually going out and talking to people. So what we have is this paradigm where, you look at what they're actually doing, and half the time they won't even try and be objective. They'll straight up tell you what their intention is. And their intention is to go ahead and block out what the truth may actually be in favor of their progressive agenda. So when Ben Boychuk brought up John McCain, I mean, look at him. Well, you can't look at him now. That was a bad attempt at humor. But, he had spent his entire life, just cozying up to the media, trying to be friends with everybody. And when it was time for him to run for president, they said he was, he was anti-gay, he hated women, he was a racist, he would start World War III.
Yeah, they used the Republican line.
And then
that was 2008.
Yeah, 2008. And then when it was time, for him to pass the final vote in the Senate to kill Obamacare, he voted to save it. And then suddenly he was the lion of the Senate, and he was the last true statesman. Yeah. When he died, he was treated as if he was going up to the right hand of God, because it has nothing to do with the person. It has everything to do with the agenda.
Just like sadly, just like Uncle Mitty. He went from carrying a dog on his station wagon, to being the biggest, which Ben and I both agree is a disgusting form of cruelty. Absolutely disgusting, to him being the belle of the ball because of the impeachment.
It's a very scary story, and the idea that we ever had an independent media, I think is perhaps a mistake. But there was a media where there were two sides. I mean, even in the run-up to the Civil War, and even during the Civil War, there were two sides. Even in the North, there were people who said, let the Southern states go. And even in the South, there were some, not many, who said we made a mistake, we should never have left the Union. But now there is no dispute that it's a one-party media state, and they let the left get away with anything. To go back to what I think is the theme of tonight's event, if you're a Democrat and you commit various crimes, such as destroying evidence or perjury, you go scot-free. If you're a Republican, you go to jail. Prison.
Well, I want to speak to that point, and also something that Ben Boychuk raised. First, Ben Boychuk, Donald Regal, because I have obsessive compulsive disorder, self-diagnosed. Yes. Donald Regal was also a member of the Keating Five. He was the senator from Michigan.
Yeah.
DeConcini from Arizona was also a member of the Keating Five.
Right.
Regarding your point about members of the media not being that bright, that may be so, but they are more credentialed than they have ever been. And journalists of the past, take two columnists, for example, who also did excellent reportage, one of whom I adored, the other, at best, I could tolerate. The one I adored recently passed, Pete Hamill, as Howard Cosell.
Oh, I love Pete Hamill.
And Jimmy Breslin. There is not a journalist working today, in my opinion, as good as either one, nor would either one get hired by the same papers today. The story, it's not alleged, it's fact. David Ogilvy, after he built his ad agency, and Ben, you reference it in your novel, Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow?
Yeah. Ogilvy and me.
Right. The story is, when it became a large enough agency, Ogilvy, who had been expelled or flunked out of Oxford, submitted a resume, his resume, dates changed, different name, and was rejected. He didn't even get an interview at his own agency. The credentials become more important than anything else. So we have the most or best credentials.
Lewis, I think Ben Stein is somebody that could raise their hand after winning countless Emmy Awards and makes a movie called Expelled that literally got him expelled. Anybody,
well, not completely expelled.
Not completely.
But and this speaks to a point we've talked about before. If asking the question is illegitimate, then you become not only controversial, but someone who, if you're on social media, can be canceled, blocked, or have his or her account suspended. And depending on the topic or the nature of the question, simply asking it can make you someone who is, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, a racist, an anti-Semite, a misogynist. Take whatever pejorative term you like, but when the question becomes illegitimate, because someone says it's illegitimate.
Right.
And in science, there are differing degrees of certainty, but there is nothing that is 100% certain. So with that understanding in mind, if you still raise the question, no matter how controversial it is, if it offends the author of the theory, if it offends the people who happen to propagate the theory and the popularity of the theory within research, academia, and industry, then you are finished unless you have tenure or some kind of sinecure where you can afford to be controversial.
Well, it's a scary thing, and I'd like to take a step further into something we have touched on here, and I think merits a lot more touching, which is the fact that certain private entities have so much power over the free press that they can close down the free press. When the authors of the Constitution were creating the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, they never dreamed there'd be such a thing as Twitter or Facebook, and that a private citizen, not the government, could control freedom of speech. But that's happening now. And that is a very scary situation. Very scary that some rich kid, or some very, very, very rich kid, can from somewhere can shut down freedom of the press. I mean, that's
you can thank Speaker Gingrich and Majority Leader Dole for the 1996 Telecommunications Act, which President Clinton signed into law, which designated these internet companies, AOL, and later, of course, Facebook, Twitter, they weren't around at the time, but the law applies to them, exempting them from status of or the designation of being publishers, because the legal implications for them would be enormous.
Yeah.
Enormous, absolutely enormous.
But here's the deal, though. Here's the thing with that. Precisely because they insist they are not publishers. The smart move. Well, first of all, if we had a federal elections commission, which we don't currently, because the board is not full, they can't get a quorum to swing the hammer on this. But if we did have a federal elections commission, and if they were worth a damn, they would be going after Twitter and Facebook and whoever else with a sledgehammer over the question of in-kind contributions, because they're not a publisher. Publishers can, newspapers are free to endorse candidates. Publishers can have opinions, but these guys insist, no, we're not publishers. We're neutral platforms. Okay, great. Well, if you're not a publisher and you're ostensibly neutral and you're interfering in an election like this, let's try to quantify just how much in-kind contributions over the past 48 hours, Twitter and Facebook have delivered to the Biden campaign and the Democratic National.
And are part of his transition team.
Right, that's right. The revolving door.
People on Facebook, Ben, are part of Joe Biden's transition team. But on that note, I want everybody that's tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. We always forget to do this, and I think it's really important for people like Ben Boychuk, Remzo, Lewis. Please give your handles on, because I constantly get asked where people could find you on on Parler. So if you could just give out your Parler hashtags, that would be great.
Yeah, you can go.
It's-
You can
oh,
go ahead and
go ahead.
find. Sorry, you can go ahead and find me at Remso. I'm the only Remso there. REMSO.
Ben Boychuk?
I'm at bboychuk3. That's BBOYCHUK 3.
And Lewis is new. Lewis, how do people find you?
I'm looking.
Follow
I think
Lewis,
it's
I'm off.
And
it's
of course-
L. It's L Fine, FEIN. That's at L Fine. I had to check.
And of course, Ben Stein is Ben Stein, and I'm at Judah Friedman. But I want to segue, I want to segue a little bit to the discussion Ben and I had earlier in the afternoon. There's gonna, we've had the Durham probe which is going to amount to nothing. Bill Barr everything he's done is going to amount to nothing. There are 60 million. There are a lot of Trump supporters that are just going nuts right now, Ben, with zero indictments for unmasking, with zero indictments for these people lying under oath like Clapper and Brennan. And I am really scared after this election, win or lose or draw, that if Trump does lose, there will be a revolution because Trump supporters are sick and tired of being ignored, being put in that corner, being told they're deplorables. And it's why can't Bill Barr or Dunham, we constantly get these, it's coming any day, and it never comes, Ben.
Well, the issue, I think, here is that the people in charge of enforcement do not want to enforce the law against their friends and ideological comrades. I mean, it's always been true that this glaring weak spot in the justice system in the United States of America is prosecutorial discretion. And prosecutorial discretion means that prosecutors can indict and torture and torment people they don't like, and they can skip over people they like, and nobody can do a darn thing about it, not a single darn thing. Prosecutors have incredible power to do anything, including shutting down unpopular causes and including protecting popular causes that are in their same ideological mold. The discretion of prosecutors in America is enormous. Now, why Bill Barr cannot impanel a grand jury and get some of these people indicted, I have no idea. That it seems he should be able to do. I don't know why he can't do it.
So my question is, as a Trump supporter, somebody just wrote, and it's something you would say is, they're above the law. The law is only for us peasants. Right.
Only the little people pay taxes, and only
Thank you, Leona.
get indicted. Right, and only the little people get indicted.
And Ben, it's at the point, but I really have this feeling, and it's not a good feeling. It's not something I want, that Trump supporters, that, any honest citizen is going to look at what's going on and say, Martha Stewart went to prison for a process crime. Lori Loughlin went to prison for trying to get her kid into college. And James Comey started an investigation that he knew was absolutely false with the FISA abuse and all that. And I'm very scared.
Look, we could do a whole show about the injustice, the insanity of the crime, and I put that in quotes. I'm very passionate about this particular issue, about the crime of lying to the FBI, because the interpretation of that law is so elastic. And it's no surprise that that law is used, or that charge is imposed after every other charge has been exhausted, after every resource by a defendant has been expended, and through time and this war of attrition, a U.S. attorney or an assistant U.S. attorney offers a plea. What's the plea? Plead guilty to the crime of having lied to an FBI agent. You won't go to prison. You'll pay a fine. And what will we do in turn? We will get a conviction. We will issue a press release about said conviction. And we will have, and this is very important, because while we have a judicial system, it occasionally produces justice. It is an adversarial system based on winning. And prosecutors win all the time. In California, 85% of all felony trials are won by the district attorney.
Lewis, you're proving the point. You're proving the
Right.
point. What Ben just asked was why is Bill Barr have there been 0 grand juries? And with Ben Boychuk?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to ask Conrad Black. It's really interesting. A lot of these prosecutions, and again, this goes to the relationship between what really amounts to the permanent bureaucracy, the administrative state,
Or the deep state.
Well, yeah, the deep
the
state.
administrative state is the
deep state. So, but you read about what happened to Conrad Black, and he's written about it a bit for American Greatness and
He read a great book. He's written.
Yes,
A Matter of Principle.
Matter of Principle. Yeah. So no, but I gotta plug our site. You ask him, and he's very passionate about it. But what happened in his case, and what happened in the Martha Stewart case, and what happened in many of these cases that we're talking about, is the demonization of these people by virtue of, well, prosecutors are saying that they're alleging that certain crimes occurred. Martha Stewart misremembered some things and may have fibbed a bit, and they lowered the hammer on her and made her into a demon. And now she's kind of a celebrity thug life lady. But
hey, she's got that cooking show of Snoop Dogg, and that stuff is dope.
Yeah, right. But that it's you see the relationship between prosecutors and the media, and there's a tendency, a deference to authority there, where it's funny how our friends on the left 30 years ago, 40 years ago, would never trust anything that came out of the CIA or the FBI. And now it's as if it is gospel.
Everything is reversed. We're for less war. Don't trust government intel. Therefore, trust everything and let's go to war. Ben, yes.
I'm scared of the whole thing. I'm scared of the whole idea of a one-party state, a one-party prosecutorial situation, a one-party media. What happened to America? America has been buried under allegations of systemic racism, which allow one party, even if part of the other party is really supposed to be against them, one party to dominates everything. It dominates the press, dominates the judicial system, dominates the academy. Where are the conservatives? Where are they? And yet we know there are enough conservatives to elect a majority in the Senate and to elect a president. But where are they now? They seem to have disappeared down.
Ben, you know where they are? They're on Sean Hannity every night promising that they're going to indict tomorrow. That's where they are. For 3 years, I've been watching Sean Hannity promise, and from top conservatives, indictments are coming. This is coming. That's where they are. And a mutual friend of all of us pretty much said to us about a year ago, who's Larry Klayman, and he said, I guarantee you nobody gets prosecuted. And I said to him, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. And he says it to me every day. There will be no prosecutions. And he's completely right. And he represented Jerome Corsi, the only person that Mueller didn't indict.
Well, there are some outliers who are liberals, including two people who are great writers and strong supporters of the First Amendment, Wendy Kaminer and Harvey Silvergate. Harvey Silvergate has an excellent book. Now, full disclosure, I haven't read it, but I'll still say it's excellent because I've read his columns and his contributions to the Wall Street Journal, and I believe it's 4 felonies a day. Someone look that up for me, please.
It's 3 felonies a day.
3 felonies a day, right. Which is why I think...
Thank you, Ghost Runner.
Yes, I think the insurance companies, I've spoken about this with Ben Boychuk, I think the insurance companies should start offering policies for people who want to buy criminal defense insurance so they can cash those policies in to pay for a good criminal defense attorney if and when they're charged with a crime. Because if we do in fact commit at least 3 felonies a day, well, I would like to have Lloyd's of London or Chubb or State Farm issue a policy that I would gladly pay for because I do not trust the police. I do not trust prosecutors. I do not trust the state. I am ecumenical in my skepticism of the aptitude of the state, from the DMV to the Pentagon. Okay, so I'd like to have that insurance.
That's a great.
I think that insurance exists. It's considered just being rich.
Ben, I have a question.
Right.
Ben, I have a question.
It's called cash.
Ben, I have a question for you, and not that this has happened to you, but have you noticed that people that get audited that once you get audited, you're constantly audited?
Oh God,
I
hope that's not true.
Oh, I wasn't.
I went through that. I went through that 2 years ago. It took about 2.5 years to resolve.
I love how you answered that question, but
yeah, I know, but I'm sorry, I had to. I hope that's not true. Please, Ben Stein, tell me that's not true.
I'm afraid my experience is that it is true, and once you're audited, they just go after you endlessly. And even if they find nothing wrong and you don't owe any money, they'll still keep auditing you. And I think it's for the fun of years and years ago. I was a lawyer for the Federal Trade Commission, and my first case I was assigned as a prosecutor was, against Coca-Cola Foods, maker of a delicious, really delicious fruit flavored drink called High C. Mm. And we alleged that they claimed that they were nutritionally equivalent to orange juice, and they weren't. And I read all the advertisements that supposedly made that allegation, that boast. And I said to my boss, sir, there is no boast here. There's no case here. There's no case here. Let's just drop it and go on our merry way. And he said, no, you follow this case. This will be good trial practice for you. And I said, but sir, we're going after innocent people. And he said, F them. They're Coca-Cola. They've got all the money in the world. F them. And I was stupid enough to keep prosecuting them and going after them. But I think I really struck right into the nerve, one might say, the nerve center of the deep state.
Can I tell you something? Because I grew up with High C. I was on a puddle jumper in South America, almost within the contrails of the congressman's plane ahead of me. I get to this party, everyone's dead. I mean, the party was dead, and I had.
Oh, I thought you meant dead. My bad.
No, they were, and so
figuratively dead. Okay.
And I had such a sugar high, passed out on the tarmac. But give the IRS credit for one thing. They are honest. They are honest about this, that you are presumed guilty until proven innocent. And they're honest about that.
And Remzo, it's actually a point I was going to bring up, but a lot of people don't realize where drinking the Kool-Aid came from. And it was
Flavor Aid.
I thought it was High C.
No, I was the one with the High C under each arm.
What was used at Jonestown?
Yes, that's what a lot of people don't realize that's where that term came from.
Yeah,
so that's what Lewis's joke was meant.
Joke.
You got it. Yeah. Joke. If you got to explain
the crazier 2020 gets, I think a lot more people would trust the Jonestown cults than some people in the deep state.
Lord. So Ben Boychuk, getting back to it, to answer Ben's question, you're screwed. So you can expect a biannual colonoscopy.
Yeah, I don't.
You should drink the High C.
I'm not sure, because I was able to hire a really, really good attorney.
Good luck. And so, Ben, somebody has a question for you, and I think it's an important question because it's a word I brought up, and I want everybody to go around asking what they think of this. The word revolution, and Rock Breath brings this up, the word revolution is being thrown around a lot lately by many conservatives. My question is, what does that really mean for America, Ben? And I'll let everybody answer that.
Ben Boychuk or Ben Stein?
Ben
Stein.
I don't think there's going to be any revolution. Although the conservatives have guns, nobody can outfight the police or the National Guard or the Army if they're called to your house and you're shooting, or they find you've got an arsenal of guns in your garage. There's not going to be any kind of revolution like that, but there will be, I think, a political revolution where people will see the incredible corruption of the Biden family writ larger and larger and larger. And they will go, and there will be some kind of somebody somewhere, we hope, will go after them, but we can't count on the media to do it. But it is possible the media will do it. It is possible that will happen. But I don't foresee a revolution. And I think that's I don't hope for a revolution when people get killed in revolutions.
I pray you're right, Ben. I really do. But Ben Boychuk, what is your thoughts on that?
I don't see a revolution either, but I do see the possibility, the very strong possibility of secession movements getting stronger. I think that as people are sorting themselves out, Ben Stein, a short time ago, you had mentioned how you dread and fear the prospect of living in a one-party state. Of course, you and I and Lewis and Judah, we already do.
Right. Absolutely. We absolutely do. No doubt about it. Absolutely.
Right. And the good news for you is that you can light out to a wonderful state, the state of Idaho, where I'm looking to maybe move at some point because, freedom-loving people live there. And
right. It's a great place. It's an absolutely great place. We have some property in Sandpoint, Idaho. It's an absolutely wonderful place, but a little cold and damp during the winter for those of us who are used to weather in Southern California, but incredibly wonderful people and an incredibly beautiful lake and great views of stars at night. You feel like it's a totally different place, a totally different America. And north of there's another lake. It's Sandpoint's on Lake Pend Oreille. North of there's another big lake called Priest Lake.
Priest Lake, yeah.
That's a beautiful place, and we go there quite often. And on almost every front lawn, there is a Trump sticker, a flag, banner. Can't even imagine that in Beverly Hills. If you did that in Beverly Hills, you'd be in real trouble. And in fact, I have a whole bunch of Trump hats in my dining room that I bought up in Idaho. They give out to friends as souvenirs of Idaho, and our housekeeper always says, "Don't wear that. Don't wear that. When you go to the house, don't wear that." And she's a very smart woman, a Hispanic woman. Don't wear anything supporting Trump. You're going to get killed.
I think that there are going to be the statistic that I read recently, and I think this speaks to this idea of secession over revolution. In just the state of Idaho alone, in the past 5 years, 85% of in-migration to that state has come from the Golden State. Yep. And so, the fear, of course, is that all of these beautiful red states will be turned purple or blue by, the Californians who leave the state looking for something better and bring their terrible ideas. I hope not. But I want to live someplace where I can be free. And I think millions of Americans want to live someplace where they are going to be free from, the double standard that we've been talking about, the woke craziness that will be coming down the pike. And we want to live someplace where we can, we can take care of our families. We can live as we want to live. We can have our guns. We can read our books. We can speak freely without fear of being canceled. And we can do all those things. And increasingly in places like California and New York and Chicago, you can't do it. They're inhospitable for all sorts of reasons.
I strongly recommend North Idaho.
Believe me, I've been researching it for the past.
Ben, he's been researching it for ages, and he plans to make a trip to Sandpoint very soon. But Lewis, on a serious note, can you answer that question about revolution?
Yeah. So here's something I could very well see happening, and that is triage by the police, which is to say, if there are riots and protests and violence in the days or evenings prior to Election Day and in the immediate aftermath in major cities, New York, Los Angeles, and surrounding communities. Take Beverly Hills, for example. How many police officers in the Beverly Hills Police Department are going to, upon having seen the mob approaching Jeff Bezos' $25 million or $150 million estate that he bought from David Geffen, are going to say, yeah, I'm gonna protect the the grounds. I think I could see cops turning their backs there. I could see cops in New York turning their backs as these vacant towers on Billionaires Row, so-called, are stormed or laid siege to by protesters, rioters, and criminals. So in that regard, I could see triage. But the irony to me is that the most vociferous proponents of secession are members of blue states who are unarmed and have yet to consider, because this was addressed in the Federalist Papers, so it shows you the level of their own ignorance. What are they going to do for money in the country of California when they secede?
Crack.
No, that's Delaware. And about Delaware, I want to leave you with this, because this is a you can look it up, as they say. There was a time when Joe Biden he would take pride in this. He used to boast about it from the floor of the Senate, that he was the poorest member of the Senate. Every year, roll call would list the richest, and it would be maybe sometimes it would be a tie between John Hines and Jay Rockefeller, but they would be at the top, and Ted Kennedy would not be far behind. And at the bottom was Joe Biden. How much things have changed since then.
And thank you, Louis. Remzo?
I think we tend to be missing the forest for the trees. I consider myself kind of a pessimist, but ultimately the one thing I've had to constantly tell a lot of my friends who are, good, smart, beautiful people, it's that, election day will come and go. And my priority after that will be getting ready for Thanksgiving and Christmas. 6 months ago, we had people who couldn't even stock up on toilet paper and bottled water. And now we have a bullet shortage throughout the country. We're looking at the biggest issues that affect our daily lives for many average Americans, and while they think it matters who is sitting in the White House, ultimately, we're a nation of consumers where credit card debt is crazy. We're a nation of people that spend years in college and then get mad because we don't get to work our jobs. We have a whole bunch of people that are constantly trying to keep up with the Joneses, but they don't necessarily focus on developing their own lives. I think the big problem is this. We're so hyper-focused on a few things, and I want to go ahead and bring up a number, and that number is 4,000, give or take, but it's around 4,000. That's the number of people that voted for AOC in her primary in a very hard district in New York, which may not even exist after the census is resolved. Yet, when you look at many conservative commentators, they basically built her up to be the voice of the left. She really is a creation of what I would call conservative media. But when you really look at it, she only really represents a small fraction of a very liberal state, and she was only put there by a very small percentage of liberals. AOC really doesn't affect my life. And what I think many Americans need to get back to is first principles, the right to free expression, the right to live your life as you see fit as long as you don't hurt people and take their stuff, whether it's through secession or whether it's trying to formalize, more private communities. I think the biggest problem at the end of the day will never be a politician, will never be a president, or will never be one company. The problem is always us who enable it. And that's something we need to take into accountability as we go past this.
Ben Stein.
You don't have a common culture. You have nothing to unite your country.
Ben, I don't think you could have said it better.
That's beautiful. Very beautiful.
Thank
really,
you.
Really done. Well done. Well done.
Ben,
Louis, we do have a common culture. It's called Tiger King on Netflix. That united the country for like 2 days.
But Ben, I want just a few parting words.
Baskin.
You've been through so much and you've seen so much. In a couple of words, how do you get through it? How do you get through the distractions, the hate, the animus? What gets you through the day? Because I think sometimes people need to know that there is hope.
I pray a lot. I have a wonderful wife. I have wonderful friends. I pray a really lot, and I swim a lot, and I am scared a lot. I really am very scared about what's going to happen to America after this election. I hope Remzo is totally right. I pray that he is. Because the main things we have to worry about are preparing for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And Remzo, that was beautifully put, and I appreciate it very much.
And
Thank you, sir.
That will do it for this episode of The World According to Ben Stein. Please subscribe to our video channel if you haven't already at World According to Ben Stein. Like us on Facebook at World According to Ben Stein, and follow us on Parler at Ben Stein. I want to thank our panelists, Ben Boychuk, Louis Fine, Remzo Martinez, and of course the man himself, America's humble servant, Mr. Ben Stein.
God bless you, sir. God bless you all.
God bless you.
God bless America. Thank you very much, Judah. God bless you, sir.
Thank you.
Well done.
Well done, everybody. Well done. Well done. God bless you, sir. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you.
I was hoping, Judah,